Since the beginning of the genocide, I have platformed courageous Israelis who've spoken out against the genocide. Now, they're doing so in an atmosphere of genocidal mania. That's what makes them courageous. Today, I'm speaking to Itamar Greenberg. He's just turned 19 years old. In fact, it was his birthday when I spoke to him. He's been imprisoned 5 times for refusing to serve in the so-called Israel Defense Forces, and he refuses to do so because he believes that his country is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. Of course, he's quite correct to think that. Now, many of us have principles, but the real test of those principles is whether you're prepared to make a sacrifice. And he certainly made a sacrifice at a very young age. I started by asking him, how did he get to the position that he got?
I think it's a good question. Maybe if I will know the answer, I will make more people to believe in the same things. So I hope I will know it. I think it's complicated answer because in my story it's a little bit different because I'm coming from the ultra-Orthodox community. My family is ultra-Orthodox, and like I've been in 2 processes of getting out, like from the Israeli narrative and propaganda, Zionist, and from the ultra-Orthodox community. And it started when, like, I'm calling it circles of humanity that going bigger and bigger. Like, I start to get out from the ultra-Orthodox community by stopping to say the daily blessing of thank you, God, for not making me a woman. Like, I did it every morning, I said, and I stopped. And time after it, I don't know exactly, I stopped to say another blessing of thank you, God, for not making me a non-Jewish person. And like the next step was that I become a vegan. So yes, it's circus of humanity, and I think the next step or like my refuse is just another step in this process or journey.
I mean, the dehumanization of Palestinians is so widespread. I mean, it's widespread in many Western countries other than Israel. But obviously in Israel, it's very extreme, that dehumanization. How did that change with you? How did you, I mean, just seeing Palestinians as human beings of equal worth, how did that happen with you?
I think it took time. It wasn't like one day that I wake up and I understand they are human beings. I get out from the community. I got my first smartphone maybe about 4 years ago or 3 years ago only. I start to learn about social media mainly, Twitter basically, and I understand that if I believe in equality, and I do, it comes only after the story I told you, I have to believe for everyone in equality. And there is no reason that Palestinians will not be included only because like they are the other side of the conflict or our enemy in this point of view of mine. And I continue, and I think as I become more and more active, I get to know the situation more and more and to know the Palestinians, because only when you become active on the ground, you understand emotionally that they are human. And I remember my first night in Palestinian house in West Bank in activity, and that this is what I'm doing now, like all the time. And in the first time, it was shocking. Like I was scary because I felt educated to hate and to be afraid. And even if I broke it in the brain, to broke it emotionally, it's different thing.
I mean, when you came to this conclusion, which means being sent to prison, I mean, were you scared? Did you have doubts? I mean, what was going through your mind when you knew this means I will be sent to prison as someone who's only just stopped being a child?
I don't really know. I understand that I didn't decide it. I just understand that this is what will happen, and like I go with it until it happened. I didn't thought about it a lot. Like there was we have the Mesarvot network that it's very important. It's a network that helps the refuseniks, and I'm proud to be part of it. But I didn't really think about the prison specifically. I thought about the process, about the struggle, about the campaign, how to do it, the effect of the refuse. But about prison, I start to think only when I came to prison, and it wasn't so easy. In the start, there was an event that, and after it, they took me to solitary confinement. But it became better. But all the time, because the effect of refuse is working, Israelis know me from social media, and people in prison know me too, and they're soldiers, and they hate the army because they put him like in prison, but they hate me more. So I was need like to sleep with open eye, but it was fine because like I didn't look about it objectively. I just was in my head all the time, in the struggle, the resistance, and like I read, I thought, I wrote. So yeah, it was very powerful time.
Have you got threats of death threats of violence?
Well, yeah, I am not counting it. It's so much in Hebrew. It's crazy all the time on Twitter. I got tens, thousands of hate replies, but I hope one day it will change because like I think it's showing us like the situation. If people hate me, it say two things that I make them to hate me, like what I say, and that they don't agree with me. So basically, it's the same thing, but I think we need to. It's like it's working to both sides. If they will stop to hate me, they will. I don't know what I'm saying. I just think that, I hope one day people will understand and will change the views. But I can say that if this is the sacrifice that I will need to bring to the table, so that people will hate me, it's fine. Okay.
And because there's prison, but there's the stigma. I mean, what about your friends, your family? Was that difficult?
Well, I think it's very important because I think people thinking about prison and think that like the most hard sacrifice is to get into prison, and I think it's not. I think the outside it's more hard in two ways. Like actually, what happening outside it's shitty, and like to be activist and to resist in this, it's hard more than to be in prison. But like the sacrifice in the society, it's harder than being in prison. Like, I have friends that are not anymore friends, and not all of the people getting it, and it's fine. As I told you, I knew it will happen, and I hope they will understand one day. But if not, and the reconciliation will come, and people will still hate me, it's fine because I will know that I did my job.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it's genocide, and that's a position which scholars of genocide agree with, like the Israeli-American professor of genocide studies, Omar Bartov, Amnesty International. What made you conclude that this is a genocide taking place?
Actually, I didn't thought about it exactly, like the meaning of the genocide. I don't really know, like the how the international community or the human rights organizations calling it by the rules. And actually, I don't really care, because like I'm seeing extermination, destruction. This is what I see. I will call it in any name that will bring end to this as soon as we can. But yeah, Israel distract all the human beings in Gaza and starving, and it's crazy.
I mean, what many of us find often quite depressing, if we see the polling of Israeli attitudes, is that there are courageous Israelis like yourself, but the wider polling is bleak. And so one poll last year found that if we exclude Palestinian citizens of Israel, that only about 2% of Jewish Israelis thought too much firepower was being used in Gaza, and the rest were evenly divided between those who thought too little firepower was being used or the right amount. And obviously it's apocalyptic what's happened to Gaza. And a large majority oppose all humanitarian aid getting in, which is what is happening. There's been a total blockade since the beginning of March. I mean, a lot of us look at that and think it's hopeless. I mean, why do you think, I mean, that kind of radicalization is quite extreme. How, is there any hope at challenging that?
I don't know. I just have to say, like, you see the polls, and I live it. Understand? It's like to live in society that everyone live on hate, and yeah, my father is an officer in the army, and my good friends, and yeah, it's very hard, and it's very different to live it. I think activism bring hope. I think mutual struggle of Palestinians and Jews giving me hope. Like, look, I am 19 now. Like, the last year, I was half year in prison, and the rest of the time I was like or in the West Bank in protective presence, or in protests, or in the parliament, the Knesset, or in other activities that I'm doing in social media, basically, in the most. So much work in this struggle. I don't have the privilege, like, not to see hope, and I don't have the privilege to think about it. Yeah.
What can we do in countries like Britain, the United States, which arm Israel, provide weapons to Israel, which have provided diplomatic and political support? What are the useful things we can do?
Wow, it's a good question. First of all, like, of course, it's a stop supplying genocide, but I don't know how should we do it, or you do it. It's like to work with the governments and maybe protests, just to change the way that your countries seeing Israel. And this is also the reason that I'm active on social media, like try to change it. And also support, I think, Palestinians and also us to bring the reality to all the world by social media, Twitter, or also Instagram. Yes. And your job is your work is amazing in this part. I think, and thank you about that. So yeah, basically that. But I'm not the good person to ask about it because I am working here on the ground and trying.
Well, you've done incredible work. You've paid a significant sacrifice for speaking out against obviously a heinous crime. Not everybody puts their money where their mouth is, and you certainly have. And as you say, it's not just the prison issue; it's the stigma, it's the threats you get. But history looks very kindly on people like yourself who take a stand when it's difficult, and history looks very badly on the jailers of those who take a stand. And you stand in a great tradition of Jewish humanism, without which the left wouldn't exist. I mean, the struggles for emancipation throughout history, Jewish people have always played a large role in, and so it remains. But for those watching and listening, share the video, press like, subscribe, leave your comments, make sure everyone hears Itamar's voice. But Itamar, honestly, firstly, happy birthday again. I'll say again.
Thank you. I always wanted to do it. Do subscribe, like here and there.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've helped do that, so that's great. But we need people to hear your voice. So thank you and happy birthday.
Thank you.